Good morning, students. Think you are doing well. Today I am going to discuss some salient points about sensory receptors. We live in an environment which is full of different kinds of energy. Our behavior with our environment depends upon how we sense it. Like the scorching heat, we prefer light clothes, and cold, we prefer winter garments. Sensation is a perception of any stimulus at our conscious level perceived through sensory receptors. We can feel many sensations, but many of them are subconscious or even unconscious. Environmental energy acts as stimuli for sensory receptors. Each receptor is sensitive to a particular type of stimulus that is called adequate stimulus. Like light is adequate stimulus for rods and cones in retina. The sensory receptors are the special kind of ion channels contained within the nerve endings. These neurons ultimately act as sensory or afferent neurons. When stimulus is applied to the receptor, it gets excited. On excitation, they produce a local or generator potential, also known as receptor potential. This is a receptor, and the sensory receptors are the special kinds of ion channels contained within the nerve endings which forms the sensory neuron. Their cell bodies are located in different sensory ganglia outside the central nervous system. They ultimately may terminate to central nervous system either in brain or spinal cord. Receptor can be classified in different ways. Depending upon the stimulus source, they are classified as exteroceptors, proprioceptors, interoceptors. Exteroceptors provide information from external environment. Proprioceptors provide information about the position and posture of our body in space. And interoceptors are the sense that state of viscera, that is state of internal environment. Exteroceptors, general exteroceptors are gradually, they are present in different layers of skin. Examples are Merkel's disc, Meissner's corpuscle, Pacinian corpuscle, free nerve endings, etc. Special exteroceptors are present, sense the light, sound, smell, and taste. Proprioceptors. General proprioceptors, specially present in the joint, muscle, tendon, and ligament, like muscle spindle, Golgi tendon organ, and others. Special proprioceptors are the vestibular system of internal ear. Interoceptors senses the state of viscera, that is state of internal environment. Like osmoreceptor senses plasma osmolarity in hypothalamus, baroreceptor, which are blood pressure sensor, chemoreceptor of carotid body and aortic body senses chemical composition of plasma. Interoceptor will be discussed in the respective system. Here lies the baroreceptor reflex chart. Receptor classification depending upon the stimulus energy. Like photoreceptor senses light, chemoreceptor, receptor for pH and carbon dioxide partial pressure. Thermoreceptor senses temperature. Mechanoceptors are the touch, pressure, vibration sensors. Baroreceptor for BP monitoring. Nociceptor, pain receptors, and receptor for stimulus that are potentially dangerous for human body. These are the stimulus energy type of receptor. Now comes to the property of the sensory receptor. Sensory receptor produces generator potential or receptor potential, not action potential. Generator potential are locally produced, non-propagatory and graded potential. They ultimately leads to action potential in the sensory nerve. Specifically, each type of receptor is specific for particular stimulus, like rods and cones are specific for light energy. The energy transducer, their energy transducer changes any kind of stimulus energy to electrical energy. They can perceive and discriminate energy, which is termed by Weber-Fechner law. That is, sensation felt is proportional to the log of intensity of stimulus. Muller's law of specific nerve energies. Each receptor has specific pathway to cerebral cortex. If stimulated anywhere, the sensation is felt depending upon the specific receptor type. Law of projection. If stimulus is applied any part of the sensory pathway, sensation is felt at the site where receptors are located. Adaptation. Decrease of responsiveness of the receptor due to repeated stimuli. Some are slowly adaptive, like pain receptor, and some are rapidly adaptive, like touch receptor. Due to rapid adaptation of the touch receptor, we do not feel the garments we wear after some time. Spatial and temporal summation. Additive effect of stimuli can be observed if the stimuli are applied either simultaneously or separately. As told, sensory receptors are specialized neuronal endings contain different kinds of energy sensitive channels. Touch receptors are the mechanosensitive sodium channels. They produce receptor potential, which when strong enough produces action potential to the sensory neuron. The sensory or afferent neurons enter the spinal cord through the posterior root ganglia. Through the spinal cord, the second order neuron reaches the specific sensory areas of brain. At brain, we perceive the particular sensory stimulus. What's happened? Suppose you are amidst of the power cut in a room without any cue like light or sound. Can you feel yourself? Of course you can. That is the job of proprioceptor. Helps us to sense our position and limit in the position of limbs in the space. Actually, they helps to judge body posture and maintains the balance. Proper muscle contraction and relaxation needed the maintaining posture and movement and postural adjustment. This movement adjustment occurs very quickly, even without our conscious perception, because some of the internal adjustment meaning the present within the muscle itself. Muscle fiber contain the extrafusal fiber, which are usual contractile fibers, and within the extrafusal fiber there is intrafusal fibers. Let's discuss about it. Histological picture of muscle spindle. That is the intrafusal fiber. Muscle spindle of the sensory receptor for muscle. It senses muscle length and rate of change of length. It is unique among the sensory receptor that it has its own motor supply. That is gamma motor neuron, which supply at its periphery. Alpha motor neuron is for the external extrafusal fibers. When whole muscle is stretched, the muscle spindle sends through the 1A and 2 sensory efferent and sends the information to the spinal cord. Spinal cord then through the alpha motor neuron contracts the extrafusal fibers and the whole muscle then contracts. More produces more contraction. It is a demonstration of the stretch produces more response, that is more action potential in the sensory nerve. So, stretching produces better exercise ability. When muscle contract, much muscle spindle also become lax at center. No sensory stimulus at that present. To overcome this problem, the gamma is also stimulated along with alpha neuron, making muscle spindle stretched even after muscle is contracted state. So, when due to this alpha and gamma coactivation, there is the stretch of the muscle is maintained. In summary, muscle spindle are sensory receptor for the skeletal muscle. They are special as they have both sensory and motor supply, sensory at the center and gamma motor at the periphery. When muscle is stretched, muscle spindle also gets stretched. Sensory fiber of the center of spindle gets stimulated. Sensory fibers enter the spinal cord through the posterior root ganglia. Monosynaptic connection with alpha motor neuron causes contraction of extrafusal fiber and there is shortening of the muscle. Discharge of the gamma motor neuron along with alpha motor neuron keep the muscle spindle stretched and thus provide a base for proper muscle contraction. This is called the alpha-gamma coactivation. Namaskar.